All right. It's been a while since we've done a comics that influence episode. This is episode 35, and it's 2024. So this is the first one we're doing. Jake, how you feeling?
Good. Hi and welcome everybody. I'm Jake, and this is Kurt, my partner in the Turbo Pit Fighter podcast series. This is our offshoot channel, which is where we get to talk about comics that influence us, and it's called Comics That Influence. Um, I have a book today, and Kurt has four comics spread out. I see he's got some Dark Horse for us. Um, but happy to be here. What do you got, Kurt? Who's going up first today?
Let me go first because I've been really anxious to talk about Kelly Jones's The Hammer. I'm not going to go like step by step through each of the issues. I got these off of eBay for like I'm thinking maybe $5, and that included shipping and handling. So when I saw it, I just had to grab it. I've also never bought a Kelly Jones comic before, um, and I had it was in the back of my mind to get a hold of something because he had a shoot interview with the cartoonist kayfabe duo Ed and Jim, and he made some statements that just rocked my boat. The number one big statement he made is that he doesn't care what the comic book page art looks like. He just wants to make sure he can see what happens when it goes to print. So he's dealing with the same headspace that I am because the art you're making is only one step closer to the art that gets printed. This comic book is the art. The original quote unquote art has a secondary market, yes, and people make a living at it. I understand. But when it comes to the art making process, you really have to take into consideration how things get printed. Now, with that also being said, because digital art making and printing is so high tech, you almost have a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're making something, you can pretty much do it. I don't like that. I don't like that. I love old comic books, especially old black and whites from 60s, 70s, and 80s. Savage Sword of Conan, Eerie, Vampirella, Creepy, yada, yada, yada. So I get a hold of these and I think, okay, I'll check them out. Well, it wasn't until we had the last 2 weeks off of the year, and I was like, well, let me get ready for next year, and oh yeah, let me go check these Kelly Jones. Well, let me just say, I was completely just knocked for a loop. You can see it immediately in this illustration here. He is pulling from the pulp illustrators. This is a Virgil Finley swipe, if you will. Virgil Finley had a very definitive way of inking.
Uh-huh.
It was these little bubbles. He would create gray values that way and stippling. And then these very sharp, contrasting black and white shapes. So, right off the gate, I'm not even into the story yet. And I am just like, okay, let's go. The coloring, we'll see. I have a love hate relationship when digital coloring comes in, more hate than love. But I was
Yeah,
able
there
to
is
make
there a
my way
single
through.
colorist? Is there a single colorist
Yeah,
that is like a
yeah,
name?
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean for this
Oh,
book?
okay.
The Stu
Well,
Heiner.
yeah, exactly. Like who's Stu Heiner? I mean, I'm sorry, but I could name a letterer, like Tom Orszewski, but is there a colorer that really
Oh
like
yeah, like a
differentiated themselves in the
like
industry to this day? Like,
yeah,
oh, so and so is
Joe,
really
was it Joe
who?
Chido or Chido?
Oh, Joe
Chido.
Chiodo? Yeah,
Chioda, is
Chiodo.
that how
Yeah.
you say his name? Okay. He's though
Yeah.
always been the first comic book colorist that comes to my mind. Marie Severin,
Okay.
she comes from the whole EC comic world, and then she moves over to the big two. She's
Yeah, but that was
always
before
being
That was before
Before digital.
digital.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
digital. Yeah, Joe definitely was a big man right there with that. But Liquid was the kind of forefront company that inked digitally colored comics. But I agree with you. It's not it is still considered a secondary uh, um, um, skill or whatever or
Like,
necessity in order to
yeah.
make a comic book, but you have the writer and you have the penciler and you have the inker. But yeah, just have somebody color it, or yeah, just have somebody fill in the letters with the computer. And there's very few people out there, and Cartoons Kayfabe, I just have to give it to them. I have a little pad of paper next to me, where I watch television, and I'm always writing names in there that these guys praise as just colorists or letterists, or you know what I mean, like wow,
Yeah.
and trying to get a little bit more in the education department. But with that being said, his art is like something between Virgil Finlay and Bernie Wrightson. So I am so already in, like kinetically, with the art, a magnolia, to another extent, but it always leans back to the pulpy Virgil Finlay and the great Bernie Wrightson. But I start reading the story and I'm thinking, okay, this is like a really, really neat kind of way, Stephen King, let's say, kind of way of approaching it. Oh, it's going to be some horror. Okay, not a big horror fan myself, but we'll see what comes. But this story, I don't really. There's a sub story of this witch woman who makes a pact with, and it's not the devil. And this is where it gets like, I'm 100% locked into this comic, is cosmic horror. So
Mm-hmm.
the premise is that this witch woman is called. She's a writer, by the way. She's like a big female writer. She's like the female version of Stephen King. So she's got this huge following. So she always has people that can do her bidding for that. But she's using them as sacrifices. But it ends up that
What year is this series? What years of this
great
series coming out?
great question. Let me. Oh, let me see
So
it.
Kelley Jones was born 1962. He had a very notable run on Batman with Doug
Yeah,
Moench as the
yeah,
writer, but it
yeah,
says his first published work was with Marvel,
yeah,
and it was Micronauts number 52, May
yep,
1983, where he was an inker.
yep.
And then he moved on to pencils in issue 59, August 1984. So he comes straight in to Marvel. He didn't kick around, I guess, like the zines beforehand.
Yeah,
Came from
I'll put a link.
California.
I'll put a link to his shoot interview, his kayfabe shoot interview. It is a must. It is a must. He really embodies an independent comic book artist mentality, and equal with mine, I feel. This is a treasure trove. This is for me the first series I bought of his, and I'm not at fail. 1997 is when this comes out, so obviously he's catching the wave with uh, um, Dark Horse.
Interesting.
So the Hammer is an alien god kind of kind of I don't want to say mercenary. It doesn't ever give like a straight up who he is, but it's basically he's taken form through a human being that asks to have this thing attached to his head. Let me see if I can get.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a real buff,
There it
like
is. Yeah,
hurt. Ooh, ouch!
but
Looks
it's
like
only when this gets, it's like a hand, but it's like it's Alien, it's H.R. Giger, it's Stephen
yeah,
King, it's cosmic
yeah.
horror, it's pulp, it's It's great. Now, another ding against it, though, color being, uh, it is very verbose. These are
I
some
noticed
quicker
he had
pages with the
he did
action.
a
He
well.
doesn't do it to the action, which is a total
No,
positive.
there's
But
lots
like
of
for
great
here,
stuff.
just to get out of this issue, you got to spend a couple.
Yeah,
But
if
here,
you have one page of talking heads, that's okay. But or two, but he's got a lot of action there, and I noticed the musculature is also incredibly exaggerated. I mean,
oh yeah,
almost like Megaton Man.
it's great. It's great. But he's really, he's really playing with the media and the mediums. Like how to, like, I don't know what he's using, a screen, obviously, but then when that screen gets a color put on it digitally, it makes things happen. Like, these are little pieces of screen that's just probably leftovers, and he just threw it in there. It's He's making all these decisions in the original the original drawings, anticipating how it will be in reaction to being printed. The color kind of hides some of the stuff, but for the most part, if you really just kind of take a moment, and I think he's also doing that intentionally, drawing you into the pages by panel by panel by panel.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think the
mastery.
color
It's
as
mastery.
as I and as I'm seeing these pages flip by, I just think the color is just detracting. Sometimes the color adds something to it, but so often in glossy page comics, the color just detracts. There's these gradients in the background, and sometimes there's like too much different colors on a page. Um, when I think of Kelly Jones, I think like he's the master of those little rib muscles. You remember, because he
Yeah.
he used to really exaggerate those. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Batman versus Bane, and
Yep. Yep.
sometimes he was doing it like to like the extreme, like he was leaf fielding it.
Yep.
um, this says that he had a 20 issue run on Micronauts as on pencils, and then he went over to DC and he redesigned Deadman, and then he jumps on the Sandman, several issues of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman.
Vertigo. Yep.
Um, yeah, and then he gets into the Batman, all these trilogies and crossovers with Batman and Dracula. Um, so a lot of work on Batman, but it looks like they teamed him up with some of the best writers. He worked with Kurt Busiek. He worked with Len Wein. He worked with
Yeah.
Doug Moench. I'm surprised that you didn't track down his 4 issue miniseries for Dark Horse called Conan: The Book of Thoth. Uh,
I'm heading in that direction. I'm on a tight budget right now because I was
okay.
it was a very good Christmas, let's just say. So I gotta let the bank account get back up before I just get out there.
And the
So I haven't
Hammer
even
was
looked
an
at that.
original.
I haven't even looked at that.
Yeah, so that the hammer was an original creation of his, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's like some creator owned property. He
Yeah.
also did a one shot called Zombie World, and then he goes back to Batman. So it looks like he looks like going in and out of Batman, for his livelihood. He did a limited series for IDW Publishing with that where he took over from Bernie Wrightson after Bernie was falling ill. How about that?
Yeah.
How about being asked to take over for Bernie Wrightson, man, filling those shoes?
You got my vote. I am on board with him. I'm just I'm a bit ashamed that I never came across him. But it's one of those things, like, there's just so much stuff out there. And I'm not even talking about in the 90s. I mean, even if I came across this in the 90s, I probably would not have been hip to it because of the colors. But if my comic book guy, Greg, was no, 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 Kurt, he's like Virgil Finley meets H.P. Lovecraft meets Stephen King meets Bernie Wrightson. I'd be like, all right, give them to me. I'll do
Yeah.
it. I'll do it. And then I would have been probably in '97 a Kelley Jones fan from there on out. But there's just always so many people and titles to go with. It's
He's
hard
yeah,
to.
a great career. He's not that old. He was born in '62, so he's not like as from the Wrightson generation. But um, just to close this out, he jumped onto Swamp Thing with Len Wein. I don't know if it's Len Wein or Len Wein, but we
Ween.
we all know the name. That's the guy that was working on the X-Men when the new X-Men came out. Um, it says that Swamp Thing was so successful they ordered a new miniseries of it, but with Len Wein and Jones, but it was halted due to Wein's death. So
Yeah,
Len
yeah,
Wein died in the middle of the Swamp Thing series that was being drawn by Kelley Jones. How about that?
right, right.
Yeah, just
So
incredible stuff. Incredible stuff.
So yeah, like I said, I wanted to share that. There's a link down below to the Cartoons Kayfabe shoot interview with Kelley Jones. And yes, I will be getting a hold of the Conan run as soon as the bank account gets back up. But that's what I got, Jake. What do you have over there, my friend?
Well, I have. Let me put this away. You know, I was going back over
Ah!
this book I got is a hit. This thing is great. I'm sure there's tons of other books that are similar, but this is a really good one. Um, the art of the B movie poster, and this is so influential to me, not just for Turbo, but also the other series that I'm writing called B Movie She Devils. I think I'm going to put a little more light on here, but the B movie posters. Sometimes they used to be called exploitation movies. We've spoken about them quite a bit. The art of the B movie poster is something else, and it spans the genres. So this is a movie. This is a book from Ginkgo Press. Edited by Adam Newell. Introduction by Pete Toombs with contributions from all these guys here. Basically, they're just I mean, the hard part is like acquiring the rare ones, but they're acquiring all of these rare B movie posters, scanning them high res, and then I guess retouching them. I'm not sure. Sometimes you can see the split where they were folded. It's unavoidable. Um, but the formula is, I mean, this is what I love because I do these concert posters for my band and other bands, and I really love to combine text and images, in exciting ways. And so this is like the perfect blend of text and images, not just like the title of the movie, but also all of the hype. Sometimes it's a little bit descriptive, and sometimes it's just it's just propaganda, right? You're just trying to get people to watch this movie by hook or by crook. Look at this. You think about it all the time. So does she. Teen Lust. Um, the movies are never as good as the poster. And, we spoke about this, the exploitation, it's not really the characters, it's really of the viewer, the reader. You're the one that's getting exploited, when you go see these movies, because the movies are always a disappointment. I mean, almost always a disappointment.
Oh,
Here's
Deadly
Planet Terror, which
Weapons. Deadly. Oh my God.
Chesty Morgan in
Chesty
Deadly
Morgan,
Weapon.
Deadly. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
so
good one.
this is just the intro where they're like,
Oh.
they're explaining like, that these posters really run the gamut, and so they have it basically into different categories. One is moral panic, and this goes back to the history of the exploitation films, which is where B movies came from. It's like people were making a lot of money, and there was a real big hit with this movie called Mom and Dad that was made for like nothing, but it showed the actual birth of a child, like towards the
Yeah.
end, and
Yeah.
it ended up making millions and millions and millions over years and years and years. And you could just see like these great, you know, this right here is the 40s, right? And so, the B movies were always pushing it, and you know, the whole idea, I'll say it again, is like, selling a bill of goods, that the movie never really equals up to. But what you're doing is capturing the imagination, and sometimes it's just suggestive, and sometimes it's explicit in the poster, like, hey, there's going to be some nudity here, or hey, there's going to be some action, or hey, there's going to be some violence, or gore. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead. Check out this one, She Devil Island. That's what comes up on a search when you put in B movie She Devils. um, Teenage Crime Wave. So these are all these kind of like moral panic, category posters. But the artwork is just amazing. And I'm not going to flip through every page of this book. I'm gonna skip like major sections here. Um, Here's some martial arts, and here's some gunfighters. So you got your Western movies. They have this categorized just as action, and so this is probably one of my favorite categories. Of course, post-apocalyptic is my favorite subcategory. But this looks just like your pulp covers, doesn't it, Kurt?
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
got
Oh
your
yeah. Yeah.
hard-boiled detectives here. You got your masked intruders. You got your crimes. You got your guns out. Um, here we have the damsels in distress. Here we have I love when you have this kind of dual lighting, on the coloring, and really good stuff. And this book really brings you up to the modern era, because B movies have never gone away. They're still making them today. They might be like more of the horror genre, or they might be, kind of just like teen jump scare movies nowadays. But they're still making gore. They're still making B movies today. Look at this one. This one is very suggestive. Tarzana, and let me just move it over a little bit. Right? They're kind of like suggesting, lesbians or interracial lesbians. Like, give me a break. This was in the '60s, so these are all making a real splash. The diagonal text is always more exciting. 3D text is always exciting. Here you get these jungle girls. Can you imagine every one of these, Kurt, is a movie, that you can
Yeah. I
sit
know.
down and watch?
I'll be taking screenshots when I'm editing this to find certain ones. I've been collecting them, but we got our big 20 volume DVD collection, and there's some good ones on
Yes.
there. But you could I have to say, Amazon Prime, they have this freebies section, which has like some ads that they throw in here and there. But man, I have 100 plus on my wait list, my watch list. They're getting them up there because they need some reason for you to pay them to get on there for that first movie, and then pay them for the rest of the. Oh, Santo, that's one of the guys I want. One of the storyline. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh yeah, right. They
Yeah,
got the
Santo.
wrestlers. You got, yeah. I
Oh
mean, they have
yeah.
a page dedicated to catsuits. So comics and influence. If anybody's listening, and you're in the comic game, you're an artist. Um, use these for ideas. Like this cover I just made. Actually, I based this on a pose I saw from Rock and Jelly Bean, and that gave me the inspiration, for making a similar pose. But there's just such a wealth here, of action poses, of montages, where you have, you know,
Yeah.
some scenes, you know, and this is great for covers and also inside front covers. You know, I want to tip my hat to Paul Galassi, who used to do these montages on page one of all the Master of Kung Fu comics. And you know, when he was doing that really good run with Doug Moench. Speaking of Doug Moench, but look at this: Mama's Dirty Girls. You have ladies in bikinis that with giant guns. You got all the foreshadowing, right? You got strong females, and you know, this just goes on and on and on because you can plug this in, and you might not be able to find this movie very easily. But when you put in these names of these B movie actresses, you can find all the other movies that they made too,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
kind of cross reference them, and you could be just watching great movies forever. And when I say great, I mean bad. Um, Here is a Death Wish that we were just talking about, or here's Charles Bronson. I don't know if this is this might have been a translation. And here they write nice poster, shame about the film, because of course some of these are the literally the worst movies that you'll ever see, you know. And even that collection that we bought, you know, it's really really hit or miss, and mostly miss. um Look at this, there's a guy getting shot right in the head with blood spurting out, right? Some of these
By
are
Yul
painted covers.
Brenner.
Yeah, I know.
That's so
You
crazy,
know,
man. I love
I
it.
think the
I love
bald
it.
guys were hot. Here's Telly Savalas right here.
Hell yeah, baby.
um Now,
Bald is
people should know
beautiful.
I am just grabbing a hunk of pages, and I'm just like skipping a hunk of pages at a time. Here we're going back to Bela Lugosi, right? And he was in the 30s. These guys, you know, and they had long careers that lasted, you know, from the 40s and the 50s. People should see. There's a great documentary on Netflix about Boris Karloff, where his daughter reveals a lot of stuff. You know, it's really amazing, you know, Boris Karloff's career. Um, so, you know, and then there's so many of these that they have to make them like 10 to a page, you know, which is insane. I mean, there's, what is this? This is 4, 8, there's 11 on this page right here, you know, and these all deserve their own, you know, half a page, you know, a quarter page. Um, Great stuff. I love this colored shading here, right? It looks like there's blue lighting on the left, red lighting on the right. I love that. You get into you know, the vampires, you get into the horror of it all, the castles. This is the castle of, like, it looks like there's wrestlers here. So it's like a horror castle with wrestlers, starring Blue Angel, Super Zen, and Tiniblas El Gigante. Um, the names, oh my God, the Carnal Carnival of Terror, Bloodlust, Blood Mania, Death Curse of Tartu, The Vampire Beast, Night of the Bloody Apes, Tomb of Torture. I mean, this is just a goldmine of inspiration and references that I really recommend people, you know, get a book like this, a nice coffee table book of these. Again, this one is called The Art of the B Movie Poster, Adam Newell. This is a great purchase. It's hundreds of 300 pages, Kurt, with, like, you know,
Yeah.
5 to 10 pictures on a page.
Yep.
Um, you know, and they also have a lot of international movies here too. So sometimes it's a version of the American one, and sometimes it's a movie that was only put out in a different country, like here El Pantano de los Cuervos. um you know, you got the tiger shark, El Tintorero. This is a whole series of shark movies. Look at the lettering here, the 3D letters with the multicolor blends here. This was, I guess, you know, Sons of Jaws. When Jaws came out, that was it. Next thing you know, there's like, you know, 40 different shark movies. This looks like some comic book art here. Every once in a while, you see some comic book art. The Legend of Boggy Creek. Here's Bigfoot. This is a great, this one here. I think I swiped this on a turbo cover. This one right here. You know, this is where I got the idea of the big pose with the motorcycle up in the air.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
I'm readily admitting that I just turn to this book very often. I mean, just look at this layouts here. Just the composition. The combination of lettering. The primary colors, just amazing. Here we're gonna dive into the sci-fi section. They start you out in the 30s and 40s, and very quickly, is this Judge Dredd? This looks something like Judge Dredd. You go forward into the future. Look at this stuff. This looks like pulp covers. And this is why I love B movies, and this is why we're launching a B movie series, The Queen of Outer Space, featuring Zsa Zsa Gabor. Here's the Catwoman of the Moon. Sometimes you want to look up these directors, right? Sometimes you want to look up the screen queens. Sometimes you want to look up the directors to see what else they have, because you probably can't find like 7 or 8 out of 10 of these movies anywhere. Some of these movies just literally crumble to bits, and they didn't make copies of it. They have not been digitized, and there's like all these foundations that are trying to save films right now from
Yeah.
deteriorating, because they're just made out of like celluloid, and celluloid, if it's not stored right, or even if it is stored right, only has a certain shelf life. Here's Antonio Vargas making the posters. Of course, he's the famous Playboy artist. So you got some cheesecake here. World Without End. I don't know what that has to do with World Without End. Here's It, the original Alien, The Terror from Beyond Space, multiple different versions. And here we're getting into some Barbarella looking characters, right? Look at this.
Yeah,
I mean,
that looks good.
I would love to watch this movie just based on this poster. It
Yeah, me
shows
too.
interplanetary battles with people with jetpacks in outer space, and spaceships and rockets in everywhere. Look at this bad guy here. He's got humans in a little briefcase that are shrunk down. I mean, there's two heads inside this one spacesuit. What's going on there? The Deadly Doll Men, the flesh fusion experiments, the armada of spaceships. They are flooding the zone. But the reality is, if you watch this movie, it's probably a horrible piece of garbage.
Yeah, because you've
So,
never heard about it. You've never heard about it. It's not in the it's not in the Barbarella lexicon. It's
no, well, the wild, it's called The Wild Wild Planet, um, featuring Tony
never heard of
Russell.
it.
Who the hell is he? Now look at this. We turn the page, and I don't know if this is pre Barbarella or post Barbarella, but it's just
What
like,
year is it?
uh, well, I gotta look this up here. The love factor is here. You got the Terranauts, the Daleks' invasion of Earth. They came from power from outer space. So the love factor is 1969, and is
That's
ably
after.
described by legendary stuntman Vic Armstrong. It was a bit of science fiction hokum about some girls from outer space who are like the sirens on the rocks and entice men by wearing lingerie and suspender belts, and then beat the crap out of them. It was as weird as it sounds, and very cheap.
Yeah.
Armstrong went on to double Christopher Reeve as Superman and Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, but back then was simply grateful to get the work. Um, so 69 is before Barbarella, right? Or
No.
or was that the same year?
Barbarella's 68. No,
Oh,
Barbarella's
68.
68, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good to
Yeah.
know. Okay. Yeah, so this is a Barbarella ripoff then. And then here we got the sex section. I'm not going to, well, yeah, we're gonna skip this just so we don't alienate families here. We're trying to make this family viewing, but of course, when you're doing B movies, oh
You
look, here's some Russ Meyer.
you are.
When you're doing B movies, it's a little bit unavoidable. Um, here you
Family
got the
friendly
psychedelic.
B movies.
Well, here you got the psychedelic lettering, right? So this gets into the 60s. The Brick Dollhouse, Bellboy and the Playgirls. I would actually love to see all these movies just to see if there's anything good there. Um, wow. Okay.
There you go.
Let's And then they do have some literally rated X movies here, just the posters. But let's just move on. I think this is a pretty long section. Um, oh, we're
That's
still
where
in it.
all the money's at. That's where all the money's
Here's a
at.
Black Snake. This was a Russ Meyer movie that was. This is
Yep.
the translated into Spanish. Look at this poster. Can you even believe this stuff? And these are all the different versions of a Russ Meyer movie, which I haven't seen yet. It deals with kind of like interracial stuff. Looks like this
It's
is a
about
TV show.
plantation. It's a plantation's
Right,
exploitation.
right, right. Yeah. So a lot of here's Ursula Andress bears all. They're telling you right there. Very suggestive stuff. Sometimes these ladies were a name,
Hanny
and sometimes
Calder. Hanny Calder. It's one of my favorite movies. Hanny Calder.
where's
Great
that? Where
movie.
where did I just
Hanny
show
Calder.
that?
No, 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 no. Right there. Stay on the, go back to that page.
Oh,
It's the
this.
left hand page, top right side. Top right.
Oh,
Yep.
Handy
Hanny
Calder.
Calder.
The First
Yeah.
Lady
Awesome
Gunfighter
movie.
featured.
Awesome
So this
movie.
is this is all Raquel Welch here, and of course she was the
Oh,
cave. She was like a
awesome.
cave woman in like what was it called, like 60,000 BC or something. Here she is looking all natural. Here she is with a bloody axe. So you take your pick here. Here you got Fuego and Carne, a lot of stuff here. So
Yeah, well,
that
that's
now
a
you now
that's
you
that's that's a good find. I mean, that
this
is the
is
Bible. I just want to say this though, Jake. Going
yeah.
back, when you and I were working together, you always started an idea in conversation with me on a possible comic book with an exploitation style pinup. You
Oh
always
yeah.
did. For everything we never got done, you probably still have those pinups, and that would probably make a really cool video too to show off
Well,
because a
yeah,
lot of
because
big ideas.
that's how these movies got made. It started with the poster a lot of the time. you
Right,
know.
right,
Sometimes
right.
they would hang a poster in a movie theater to gauge interest, and then they would like just take 3 months to make the movie with one of these schlock directors on a low budget because they were like, yeah, everyone's asking about that movie. You know.
That's
Um,
right.
Here you got Schoolgirls in Chains. This is like a whole prison series. Girls of the Big House, a women's prison, Caged Virgins. Come on, what the hell? Forced to submit to the horrors of the pit. Their innocence violated beyond description in an endless nightmare of terror. Two young girls trapped with no escape. I bet this movie doesn't even exist anymore. Uh, you know,
Right.
and it's also possible that some of these movies never got made, and there was just a
I was gonna
poster
say the
hung up.
same thing. I was gonna say the
Yeah,
same thing.
prisoners in a barbaric camp of sadistic perversions, and then when you watch the movie, it's probably the stereotypical prison guard who's like drooling, and he's like a lot of it is just all in the theater of the mind,
Right.
because that was the big thing about Russ Meyer is like it wasn't very sexually explicit because there was literally cops waiting to raid these films on the first day and arrest the movie theater owner, and then if they could get a hand of the if they can get a hold of the director too, places like Indiana, and there's all these famous stories. And so Russ Meyer would just as one example, would really tone the movies down, and he would use all other kind of psychological suggestion, to get
Innuendo.
innuendo, right? And it would all just be an exploitation, right?
Yeah.
You when you watch these movies and you're like halfway through, you're realizing, man, I got taken again and again and again. But you always keep going back for
But it's
more
a
because of
ride.
these
It's still
posters.
a
Yeah,
ride, though. It's still
it's
a
a
ride.
wild
It's
ride.
a good ride.
Yeah, and
It's
you're
great
looking for
stuff.
like any nuggets of value, like
Yeah.
a funny
Yeah.
line, or one good scene, or like some motorcycle imagery or something. But Kurt,
Right.
that's my report. I love this. I love this
Awesome.
movie, this book.
Woohoo!
I probably just showed you like maybe 20% of the book. It's 300 pages. Look how thick this is.
That's
So,
awesome.
folks, run, don't walk, and get yourself a copy.
Cool. All right. Well, that's good timing because we can let these people get back to watching exploitation in B movies or making one if they so choose. So, with that being said, I'm good. You got anything on the out?
Nope. Just tune into our various channels. We got Making of Turbo Pit Fighter. We got Comics to Influence, and we have Indie Creator Exchange. So see you guys in the funny pages.